So in this class, we really are going to go over the basics of Design Space and actually making your very first project. So there's a lot of features that are beginner level to super advanced level. I'll touch on them so you'll know what the path is that you need to head to become an advanced user. But we're going to focus more on the beginner features. So as we get started, Design Space is what I'm going to be showing you is on my desktop. However, you can use Design Space on an iPad or an iPhone with your iOS operating system, your Apple products. It also will work with your Android products. So on the desktop, they all basically work on an app. It just, you download it onto your desktop or your iPad or your iPhone. And they all work together in the sense that you only need one Cricut ID to work across the multiple platforms. So if you have multiple machines, multiple devices, you use just one Cricut ID to use all those, to send it all those different directions. It's like the hub. Your Cricut ID is your hub, and then it branches out. You also have, when you got your machine, there was a 30-day free trial for the Design Space Cricut Access program, which is fantastic. It has over 100,000 images, 5,000 projects, and over 1,000 fonts to use. The trial is a great opportunity to see if it's something you want to continue using, or maybe you didn't use it very much. But I find it's my first go-to resource when I'm looking for something to work on. So I use it a lot. All right. So, oops, sorry, got a little ahead of myself. So let's go ahead and look at how to get started. So first thing you do is you've installed Design Space on whatever platform you're using. You set up a Cricut ID and you install you activate the 30-day free trial for Cricut Access. Once that's all done, which hopefully you guys got that done before the class, but if not, don't worry, you can go back and do it. We're going to dive right into Design Space. When you open up Design Space, it opens up your home page. On the top of your home page, and you'll notice on my slides, I've tried to put a red box around what I'm talking about. So if you're trying to follow along and look between 2 or 3 screens, just know that if you pop onto, you'll see where the red box is and know what I'm talking about and where that is. So when you open up Design Space, you go to the home page. And in the home page, on the top of the bar is the gray bar or the header. The bar is static, which means no matter which page you're on throughout Design Space, that bar will always be there. It's your key navigation tool between the home page and Canvas. From the header bar, you can go to your profile section. That's the 3 pancakes all the way to the left. On the profile section, you can navigate to home, you can navigate to the canvas. This is where you would set up your machine and some other setting features. So if you have a settings question, this is where you would go to find those answers. The next section is the What's New section. This is a rolling banner with special offers, new products, new promos, anything that goes like that. So it's always going to be changing and giving you ideas. It'll always move and have new images up there. Not always. I mean, if you're working in your space all day, it's not going to change. But from day to day, it does change. Below that, the next section down is My Projects. And when you're working in Cricut Design Space on your canvas, you've completed a project that you just loved and you know you want to create again for somebody else, or you just want to keep it, you can save it as a project, and this is where it will show up. So there's some, all your projects, you can see my projects that I was working on when I took the screenshot, they're there. And if I want to go back and work on them again or make the same project again, I can just go back and find it that way. The next section down are the top video playlists. These are really great video playlists that will help you either as a beginner or when a new product comes out, there's an entire playlist that goes along with the product to show you how to use it, like the mug press. There's a whole playlist that goes along with that. So this is a great resource of videos to help you when you have questions. You can scroll through and find one that will answer your question. So I love this section, and it's new. The next section down is the Cricut Access section. Now, what this section does is it starts diving into the projects that are available for you to do. When you click on one of these projects, you can either make it right from there, and I'll send it right to your Cricut machine, or you can edit it. And these will also change depending on the seasonality of what's going on, if there's a new product. So like right now, it's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody. You'll see a bunch of St. Patrick's Day projects here. And you can scroll down and see other categories of Cricut Access projects that maybe are, like we have Zoe Deschanel on the top one. The next one down might be your St. Patrick's Day ones. The next one down might be community projects where you've done something and you want to share it with other Cricut users. All that is housed below this. Okay, so that is the home page of your Cricut, and it's always of your design space, and it will always look a little bit different every time you go in, but the format and the layout will always be the same. Next, I'm going to show you Design Space, Canvas. So, before I go there, I always forget this. This is if you are using an iPad to follow along with. I just want you to know where you can find the information that is sort of on the desktop. It's around the edge of your screen, but on your iPad, everything is on the bottom. So this is, if you're using an iPad, this is what it will look like. And if you're using a desktop, this is what it will look like. So this is that header bar, the gray header bar that I was talking about. It was on the home page. Now it's on our Canvas page. And you have the 3 profile bars on the left. You have where you are. So it would either say Canvas or Home or Prepare. If you've titled your project, it will have a title there where mine says Design Space Getting Started, or it will just say Untitled Project. If you want to jump to projects you've saved, this is another location that you can get to them with My Projects. When you're ready to save a project, you save it. The Explore icon on the right side, that actually changes depending on what machine you've selected. And then you have the Make It button. When you're ready to send it to your Cricut machine, you click the Make It button. From here underneath is the Edit bar. And the Edit bar is where you can modify and change your image. So just going across the Edit bar from left to right, the back arrow is Undo, and the forward arrow next to it is Redo. I tried to see how many times you could go back. I went back at least 20 times, just kept undoing just to see how much I could go back. So if you make a mistake, the Undo button is your friend. And then next to that is the Operation button. And the Operation button helps you to determine if you're making a cut, if you're going to be drawing something, or it just tells you what function you're asking your machine to do. Then next to that little purple box here, this is where you can change the colors of your image. You have the deselect button. Right now, my image would be selected. You have the deselect button, the edit button, which lets you cut, copy, and paste. If you're working with multiple images, you have align and arrange button, the flip button. So the flip does mirror, horizontal and vertical mirror. You have your size buttons, the rotate, and the position. And I do use the position feature quite a bit. The position is basically where your image is on the canvas. So in this one, the X is at 0.5. So I am 1/2 inch on my X axis. And on my Y axis, I'm at 0.514. And this is just good to know what that does, I think. Then on the right side, we have our layers panel. As you can see, I have multiple layers on my layers panel, and these layers are both selected with a bounding box. So the gray box goes around the entire, both images. I've selected them both. When one or more images are selected, let me just go back. At the bottom of the layers box, you'll see the icons are highlighted. So I'm going to go into those and talk about those. Before I do that, layers, when we talk about layers in Design Space, think of it like you're making a cake, and every layer of your cake is a layer. So, you know, those rainbow cakes are super popular, and you'll have your red layer, your orange layer, your yellow layer. That's what the layers are. It's just a layer of your image. So my circle is on top of my square. So that's the top layer. And then below it is the square. This allows you to modify and adjust just one layer of an image and not change the whole image. And that's something you'll play with a little bit, and it'll make more sense to you as you go along. But hopefully that gives you an overview of what a layer is. So when you go down in the layers panel to some of the action items, the icons really explain what each action does. So for example, the slice icon here would break apart my square and my circle. So when I think of slice, think of it like a pizza, and the square came along and took a slice out of your pizza. Slice also works like a cookie cutter. So if you wanted to cut an image out of the center of another image, it would slice that image out. So slice is like pizza or cookie cutter. The next one over is weld, and you can see where you had cut lines for a square and cut lines for a circle. Well, now those two layers, those two images are merged together to weld, and they'll cut as one piece. Instead of a circle and a square, they'll cut as that funky shape there. Attach the icon is perfect. It's a paper clip. So what attach does is, within relation to each image, to the images you have in your canvas, it holds those images into place on the canvas. So if I had my two layers, but I attached them together, they would stay in this position. It holds them in, attach holds them in position. And then flatten is action that works when you're doing print and cut, which is definitely a more advanced function. But that's when you would use flatten. And contour is used to remove cutout portions of a large, intricate design. So that's just a brief overview of those different 5 actions that you can do in the layers panel. And they're definitely more advanced. So once you're like, I'm a pro, I know how to manipulate my image, then that's when you're going to start playing with those other slice and weld types of actions. The next, as we tour around the canvas, the next thing I want you to notice is the zoom icon on the bottom left of your screen. You can zoom into your image, which then enlarges the image, or zoom out, which gives you a nice bird's eye view. The last panel on our canvas is the design panel. And what the design panel does is this is where you really get started into designing your design. So the top has the new. So when you're ready to start a new project, you can click new and give yourself a fresh canvas. The template icon takes you into a library of templates that they don't transfer with your project, but if you're making like a t-shirt or something, you can pull in a t-shirt template and use that to size your icon or the image on your t-shirt. And it's kind of a cool thing to play around with. So you might want to explore that on your own. The projects icon takes you to a library to browse, select, and cut projects from Cricut Access or your own projects. The next one down, images. Now, this is the only way that you can get to the Cricut Access image library. It's through this images icon. So you click on that and it takes you to a whole library of images, the over 100,000 images. Text adds words or phrases to your canvas. You click on the text icon and a text box shows up. You can type in your text and change your font, your size, and different text features from there. The shapes icon shows you can bring in simple shapes, circles, squares, rectangles, and resize those. And then the last icon in the panel is the upload icon. And this is where you go to upload images of your own. All right, so since this is the only place to jump in and grab images, let's go ahead and talk about images and how to find an image that you want for your project. So when you click on the images, it will take you to Cricut Access in Design Space with all the different images. If you go to search for an image, you will see different themes and categories broken up, so it makes it a little easier to find. In the highlighted categories, you can find out what images are featured, what's new, what's free, and then image sets and collections. Or if it's easier to go through your themes, you can do it that way too. So I always like to kind of come in here and browse around a little bit for ideas and inspiration. It's always fun to see what's new and what's been added because you just never can keep track of it all. There's so many images available. You can also browse with like a specific keyword. So in this example, I chose a heart with love you. And I'm doing, like, I typed in my words. And I got 17,411 results to scroll through and find the perfect heart for my project. But there's an easier way to do it. And you can begin to narrow down what you're looking for by using the filters on the left-hand side of the images. So what I like to do is I'll start with the operation type. You usually know, okay, I'm going to be making a shirt, a mug, something for a flower pot. You know what type of project you're going to be working with. So you would select one of these four: cut only, draw only, print and cut and draw. So I would select cut only. Then you can slide down to the image complexity. If you know what type of project you're doing, you know you want something simple if you just want to be able to cut out a vinyl like a sticker, or if you want to, really go to town and you want to do a multi-leveled project, then you would go with a complex image. I just choose a simple image to start with. And you can tell the filter if you want to do like one layer of an image or multi-layers of an image. And by that, I mean, it has a lot of color in it, and you would have to, maybe use two or more colors, whereas a single layer is just one layer. And then you can select your material. So if you're making a card, you're probably going to make it out of paper or cardstock. Or if you're making a t-shirt and you want an infusible ink, a very detailed infusible ink pattern, you might choose infusible ink. For my project, I needed vinyl. So when I clicked in all my filters, I reduced my numbers, which is on the next one. Before I go there, the Love You heart, when you pick that image, you get the green bounding box around that design. The eye in the bottom right, when you click on that, it changes the image into more information about the image, like the name of the image, the number, where you can find it, and image sets. Using image sets is another way to filter down the images you're looking for. So for that one, for example, it took me to an image set of Stay Golden. So it looks like this may be for like a Hawaiian vacation, maybe a Hawaiian anniversary, something tropical. Not quite what I was looking for. So I'd back out of it, and I really like this design, so I'll use this design for my project. And I'm really sorry, I thought I had an image of the numbers reducing it. When I put in all my filters, it usually turns it down to like 4,000 images. And then you can go to image sets and reduce it even further from there for what you're looking for. But I've selected this image. And again, my green bounding box is around the image. And this little flag here with the A on the image lets me know if I have Cricut access, I can use that image for free. There's no additional fee for it. When your images are highlighted with the green bounding box, if you look on the bottom right of your screen, you'll see this circle. Inside the circle is just a representation of your image. And you can remove it from the canvas on there too. You can just click on it and that would remove it. Or if you're ready to use it, you would click on the insert image and put that right on your canvas. So I've added an image to my canvas. My edit bar is active, and there's these 4 icons around the image I selected. The box around the image, the bounding box, lets me know that that image is active. So if I were to do any editing on this image, it would take effect. The 4 corners of your image, this one right here is the X, and the X deletes it right off your canvas. So if you clicked X, it would remove it from your canvas. The backward C is your rotate icon, so you can flip it around a little bit, tilt it, however you want to move your icon or your image. And then the double arrow icon is your resize icon. Now, images automatically come onto the canvas with your proportions locked. So that means if I were to enlarge a perfect square with the proportions locked, my top and sides would all stay the same in coordination with each other. So if it was a 1x1 square and I just pulled out that icon and made it a 5x5 square, it wouldn't change. It would still stay a square. If you unlock this last icon on your bounding box, what that does is it changes the proportion. It allows you to change the proportion of the image. So if you had a 1x1 square and you wanted it to be a rectangle, you can just go unlock your proportion, click back on the double arrow, and then pull your box so you can modify just the height or just the width of your image. I love it. So when we talk about like a blank, what does that mean? That just means the physical canvas you'll be using to design on. So it can be a notebook, a t-shirt, paper, whatever you're using. When we use the term blank, that's what it means. So if you want to find things that you want to design on, like if you're looking for a tote bag or a pillowcase, those are all blanks. And that's what we mean when we talk about that. So now is everybody ready to jump into Design Space and go live with me and make your first project? So what I'm making will be this. Let me go back and make sure I can see myself. I've got it right. Yeah. So I'll be making this image on my notebook, and I'm going to show you how we find this image. If you have a different image you want to find, go for it. You don't have to use the image I'm using. But if you want to follow along with me, that's the image I'll be using. Okay. So I will share my screen again. Let's see. Oops. Share my screen again with my Cricut. Nope. Where's my, I didn't have my Cricut software open. Let me do that. Then I will share my screen. Okay. Here we go. All right. Perfect. Beautiful. So if everyone wants to go ahead and open up your Cricut Design Space, we will. Okay. It's confusing. I'm not seeing my option here.
This is just a great example of how things don't always go according to plan.
it doesn't seem to want to give me the design space as an option. Let's try one more time. Oh, there we go. There it is. It's alive, ready to go. Okay. So this is my home page on Cricut Design Space. And you can see all my banners and like my projects, my playlist, and as I go down, ideas on how to use the mug press. But I'm ready to start a new project. So I've selected which machine I'll be sending my project to, and I select the Explore Air. If you're using a maker, go ahead and select your maker, and then I'll click the new project icon. And here is my beautiful canvas. All right, so remember, this is the only spot that we can use to get to the images. So when you're in here and you're ready to pull up an image, go ahead and click Images, and the image library will show up. Now, just a word on all the different images that are available to you. Some of them you can modify and change through your canvas. A lot of them, like this good luck one, this is a flat image and you can't modify that image. So if I wanted to make this like good luck Chuck and add another word onto this, unless I knew what font this was made with, and sometimes they're not fonts, sometimes they're hand drawn, I wouldn't be able to change that. I'd have to go through the fonts and find something that is similar to it. So this might be like a Sweet Lemonade font, might be close, or maybe you change it with a different font. But that's just so you know, like when you look at images, sometimes you can modify them a little bit, and then sometimes like this paw print, it's just a flat image, and there's really not a way to take it apart and change it. I saw that question, so I hope that answers it in a visual. Okay, so let's go to the all images on the left, and down here we'll click into search in all images. So this is where you would type in your keywords. I need to find something motivational, so I'm going to type in "you got this." And here are some choices that came up, 4,101 choices. Let's reduce the choices by using the filters. So everyone by now should have typed in their words, their keywords, and we'll be using vinyl. So I'm going to do something only to cut. Now I've dropped down to 3,052 results. It's going to be a single layer, and that will take me down to 1,441 results. And I'll be using vinyl. And I have 211 results. And then I can scroll through all these different results and find the one that is just perfect for me. So if I'm going fast, I was trying to find the one I had. My "you got this." So I am going to pop in reverse until I pull up that one I wanted. If I think it's in a group, let's just take this first one. Maybe the "you got this" is in this first image. So I'm going to click on that information button and check out the image sets. And here is a bunch of images that kind of go with the "you got this." Lots and lots of choices in here. And then I go, if I don't see the one I want, I just go back to image. And since the image I was looking for was on my home page, there it is. So the "you got this" image, let's just see what the group looks like for this. I have 10 images, and this is the one I want. So when you found the image you want, or images, you add them to your canvas. So down here on your bottom right, you can see the image. When you hover over it a little bit, you'll get the red X. And if you're like, nope, that's not the one I wanted, I would like to keep looking, you click the red X and it removes it from your cue and it won't add it to your canvas. I'm ready to add this to my canvas. So I will insert images and put that on there. And here is my image. Now my edit bar is active, ready to work for me. Before we get started changing your signs, changing the size, let me go ahead and show you, so this is what I'm using. Take your ruler and measure the space you have for your image, so you know what your width and height should be. So I think I'd like mine to be about 4 inches and maybe 7 inches. So I want my end product to be a 4 by 7. So go ahead and measure your width and your height. Okay, and then we'll go back into Design Space. I'll share my screen again, and we will change our width and height of our image. So if I would like it to be 4 inches wide by 7 inches, because the proportion is locked, it automatically changes my height to match the 4 inches. I can unlock the image, and now I can go in to make it 4 inches by 7 inches and see if I like that. And maybe that's a little bit too squinched out for me, so maybe I'd go 5 inches like that and meet kind of in the middle. So then I'll lock it again because I don't want to make a mistake and start maneuvering it around. Okay, so that's your base, that's your cut. When you bring it in, measure how big you need it on your project, change the size of it. You can also, if you wanted to see, maybe you wanted to see it in different colors, you could go up on the edit bar to this box and change the color. So I'm going to make this in red, or maybe I'll make it in yellow, and you can just change your color here. Okay. Now, when you're ready to make it, because we've got our sizes right, and I'm ready to make it, I go over to my header bar and you click the Make It. Before I go over there, Anna Rose, to make it, are there any questions I need to answer while we're on this screen?
Yes, actually, Kesley, can you use this image to show people what the difference is between an image and a font, and how sometimes Cricut loads words as images so they're not editable?
Yes, absolutely. Why don't I go back and find an image real quick that is a word, like He is risen. Let's go. Let's see. Let me find something that's a little bit more, a couple more words. Let's try this one. Home is where your mom is. So this image here, again, like I was saying before, I can't go in and edit this word because it's one locked image. I can go in and change it a little bit, but if you wanted to do something like this on your own, then you would go to the text box, and your text box pops up, and you would type in each word that you'd like to use, like that, and go up underneath the edit. Now my font bar has shown up. And again, this is really something that you'll get into at a higher level. This isn't really a beginner level of project, but you can just pick a font, maybe one that matches something you think is cute, and then you can go on and adjust each different word and create your own words.
Yeah, that's perfect, Kesley. That's exactly what we wanted to clarify with the group.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And it really is, like, it's a lot of fun to play with, but as you're getting started, give yourself time to get here. It's not something you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, I got this. I can do it. It just takes a little practice and playing around with it, but you can do it.
Another good question, Kesley. Does it matter what color you pick?
It does not matter what color you pick, because where the color matters is when you put your vinyl down, because it's gonna cut in the color of your vinyl. If you were on the project we're doing today, on the beginner project, it doesn't matter. If I were going to write out, say, a happy birthday, and I wanted the happy to be in blue, and I wanted birthday to be in red, then I might change out the colors to see how I liked the colors. And the other thing that will do is it will change your prepare mat. And then each color will be put on a different mat when you go to your machine. So it differentiates it puts the color that you're doing on a unique mat. And I can show you. Why don't I show you that real quick? Over in the layers panel, I'm going to turn off my You Got This. So it's going to disappear from the eye of my canvas, but it's still there. And then let's go to Make It with the happy birthday. And this is your prepare screen. So each word shows up differently on a different mat. So you're going to cut happy out of one color and birthday out of another color. So that's really when you would want to change your colors. But for what we're working on, I just showed you how to change the color so you knew where the color changing feature was. All right. So now since you've gotten a peek of the prepare screen, let's go ahead to the prepare screen. So this is where you get to look at your image and ask yourself, did I do everything right? Is this what I want it to look like? Is this how it's going to fit on my page? What's the size I need on my canvas, on my cut mat for my vinyl? So for this one, I would probably give myself a little bit extra. So I would probably cut a piece of vinyl 5x6 to go onto my cut screen. Onto my mat. Okay. If you're working with heat transfer vinyl, this is where you would mirror your project, because when you cut with heat transfer vinyl, you actually cut it in reverse. So this is where you would mirror your project. But for regular vinyl, we do not need to mirror. So you do not want that function to show up. Okay. Now, if you miss it here, and I'll show you on the next screen. Okay. So if we're ready to go, we'll go on to the continue.
Really quick, Kesley.
Yeah.
Will you just tell people this is the prepare screen? She's on the prepare screen right now.
Yes. Yes. I'm on the prepare screen, and I cannot make a mistake here, because you can always go back. You won't make a mistake here. So once from here, from the prepare screen, and you see how up at the top, my header bar is still there. I'm on the make screen now. Okay. So this is where you choose your base material, and you tell your machine what you're cutting, what materials you're cutting with. If you have an Explore Air, you can set it to the material you're cutting. So if you can use the dial to change the material with the dial. And when we go to the overhead, I'll show you what that means. My machine is currently set on Vinyl Plus, but I'm going to change that to custom. So if you're using a maker, you have to choose your materials. So when you're using an Explore Air, you can just use the dial and use the materials from there. On a maker, you have to go in and choose your materials. So I know I'm going to be using vinyl. So again, I filter down using the drop-down menu on all categories. I go to vinyl. And because I use the frosted glitter a lot, I have chosen it as a favorite material. And so I've got the gold star there, and it'll show up. And you can also use, like, I think I may have shimmer vinyl actually, but I also want to show you if you had, like, if you were doing, because I know I saw some people doing iron-on, like doing something you need to iron on. And if you chose an iron-on, like the everyday iron-on material, when you go here and you've selected that material, it will give you a warning. And it says, make sure mirror is turned on and iron-on material is face shiny side down. So that warning is right there. Okay. Now let me go back and get my shimmer material. And okay, now that's it. So I'm ready to send, and it's already sent to my machine because my load light is flashing. Actually, my load light is not flashing. My load is. Okay, now my load light is flashing. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and give it a cut. And I'm ready to stop sharing this screen and we'll go to the overhead screen. Are we there? Okay, so on the overhead screen, you'll see I'm using the premium vinyl shimmer, and I'll be using the strong grip transfer tape. And it says strong grip right on the transfer tape itself. You need a little bit stronger transfer tape for something that's textured like this. On your regular, if you're using just a regular vinyl, you don't need to have a strong transfer tape. You'll just use the regular transfer tape, which has the gray lines in it. And that's how you know the difference between the two. Now, sometimes if you use, if you're using just regular transfer tape on a shimmer or a bulkier type of vinyl, you will have a hard time getting that to stick to your blank versus sticking to the transfer tape. So if your vinyl's not staying on your blank, it's coming off when you remove the transfer tape, you might have used the wrong type of transfer tape, and you'll know. So I use my paper trimmer here, and I'm going to trim down my shimmer vinyl here to 5 inches by 6 inches. Now, if you do not have a paper trimmer, do not worry. I just think it makes it easier. All of your Cricut vinyl has the grid on the back. Each square is 1/2 inch. So you can just measure over 6 inches, counting the squares. And then you can just use your scissors and trim it that way. So you don't have to have a paper trimmer. All right. Now I'll be using the standard grip mat, and you can use the standard grip mat. The light grip mat also works with vinyl. This is the mat that came with your machine, so everyone should have one of these. And you want to line your vinyl up to this top left corner, because that's how your machine reads. It reads across and then down. It doesn't matter which way you feed your mat into the machine. You have the same header space here and here. So feel free, you can turn your mat different ways if you want. Sometimes if I'm cutting out multiple pieces of vinyl, I might load one color here, and then I might flip it and load another color here, and then just switch it in and out of the machine. You'll get tricky like that. So, and this is the your tool, one of your tool storage cases, as well as a place to store your blades. So you want to use your squeegee here and just give that a nice little touch down so that you work out any wrinkles on your vinyl. When you're ready to load your mat, you line it in on these guidelines here, and you press it up to the wheels. Now my light is flashing, telling me my machine is ready to take my, my mat. So I'm going to slide that in like that. Now on your machine, on the Cricut Explore Air and the Maker, you have two tool holders here. This one on the left is for like a scoring. If you're going to score, you can put a scoring stylus in there and score with that. This one on the right is more of your tool holder, your cutters and tool holders there. I'm ready to go. And this is the dial I was talking about if you have an Explorer Air. Since I'm using a shimmer, if I were to use my dial, I would probably push my dial up between the vinyl and the iron-on. As you go higher, as you go clockwise on the circle, it does go more, it does put more pressure on what you're cutting. So when you get all the way over here, it's poster board to cut it. Okay, so you hit your Cricut button and it's going to start cutting. And you don't need to hold it or anything like that. It'll do its magic. And while that's cutting, I would go ahead and trim my transfer tape. So I'm using, again, the strong grip transfer tape, and you have the grid lines on it. So you don't need to use a paper trimmer to do this.
Can we ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
So a really great question, and I'm wondering if you can help the group understand what the difference is between vinyl and HTV.
Oh, good question. Okay, so vinyl is you just apply. Vinyl is, I don't know, it's like a plastic-ish material. And it's shiny or matte on one side, and on the other side, it has a stick to it. So it will, you just peel it off the carrying and you can stick it down like a sticker. Whereas heat transfer vinyl has a coating on the back of it that you need to heat, and it glues to your material. So that's the difference between the two.
Thank you. So would you put vinyl on a t-shirt?
So that's what I was just going to say. If you're using, like, I wouldn't use, I mean, you probably could actually use heat transfer vinyl on a leather like this. But if you were making, say, a mug like this, you would use just regular vinyl. On a t-shirt or something fabric-y, that's where you would use your heat transfer vinyl. I have also used heat transfer vinyl on wood, but I think I just did that once or twice. So I would probably use, like, if it's a porous surface, I'd use just regular vinyl, or it's a non-porous surface, I would use regular vinyl. But the heat transfer vinyl, once you put it on and iron it on, it will stay on your shirt. So it'll go through the wash and everything. You don't have to hand wash your shirts or anything like that. It goes right through. All right, so now the fun part. If you've got your design done, I'm going to grab my table here so I can bring my camera up a little bit closer for you. If you have your image done and you're ready to take it off your paper, what I like to do is just get a little corner of the vinyl like that. You turn your cutting mat over and you roll your mat off the vinyl. Now, I do this because it makes it come off smoother, but also if you're working with paper can curl when you take it off the mat. If you do it that way, it doesn't curl. Then you want to grab your weeding tool. This is also lovingly known as the weeder or the toothpicker. It's got a very sharp tip to it. And you want to grab a little piece of your vinyl. You're just cutting out the outer edge. We'll just pull that off with my fingernail, I think. Sometimes if I'm working with something very intricate, I'll use a bright pad, or I will use, I'll put up against a window to do it. Now, if you notice, this cut all the way through very nicely. If it doesn't cut all the way through before, you can always check it before you take it off of your, you unload it from your machine to make sure it cut. And then you can just hit the C button again to cut it through. Does that make sense? Let me say that one more time. After you've cut it the first time, you can give it a little peek and make sure that it cut all the way through before you hit the unload button and remove the mat from your machine. If it didn't cut all the way through and you want to give it a second cut, you would just hit the C button and it would cut it again for you. But now we'll just take some time and weed. And Anna Rose, I can answer more questions while I'm weeding.
Great. Yeah, lots of really good questions coming in. Maybe we'll do it after you weed, but someone's asking how they can cut more than one of the same image without going back to the canvas.
Good question. So if you right click on your image, a drop-down menu will come in Design Space. If you right click on your image, a drop-down menu will appear and you would select duplicate. And then you can duplicate across your canvas however many copies of the image you want to make.
Right. What about when they go to the prepare screen? They can increase project copies there too.
Right. With the 3 little buttons. Oh, yes. Yes. You could do project copies there. So you could make the same project over and over. But if you had more room on your mat, you would, you could put like 4, like I could have put 4 of these on one mat at one time.
Yep, perfect. Another question, does the pen and the blade go into the same clamp?
No, it does not. Good question. So the pen goes into the left clamp and where I put the stylus, and the blade goes in the right clamp. So that way, if you are doing a draw and cut, you would just do it from one load and one cut. You wouldn't have to take it out, switch out your blade and put it back in. It does it all it doesn't do it all at once. It'll do the draw first and then it will do the cut.
Yeah, an easy way that we remember here at Cricut is the A clamp could stand for accessories and the B clamp could stand for blade. So then you can remember any accessory like a pen or a scoring stylus goes in A, and B is where the blade goes.
Very smart. I like that. And also I think, Anna Rose, on the make screen, it will tell you load your pen in the A clamp.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So that gives you a reminder. It's so funny because like sometimes I get so busy making that I don't pay attention. Like you've done it for a while and you're like, I'm a pro at this, and you're not totally paying attention to your screens, but all the prompts are there to do it properly. Okay. So there's my, you got this, and I've cut it out. Now I chose to weed the inside of my vinyl, but you could also choose to weed the outside of your vinyl like this. So you could have 2 different things. And if you're really clever and handy, and by handy, I mean, you don't go quickly. Like sometimes I go too quickly. You could peel this image off just with your fingers because it's all connected. You don't have any little parts to take care of. And you could have left this on the vinyl and gotten 2 for 1. So now that I like to work, I've got this mat, this self-healing mat I like to work on for a couple reasons. One is that I like it because it gives me the grid lines to work with, but it's also like I don't have to worry about poking my table or anything with my weeding tool. And I'll tell you, a lot of people find weeding very relaxing. It's how they end their day with weeding. Okay, so my strong grip transfer tape, it's the pink one. I'm sorry, purple. Purple one is strong grip. And the grid stays on the transfer tape, which I really like. And I'm going to show you guys how I set my transfer tape up. So with my grid and my self-healing mat, I'm going to put my transfer tape along the line so that it's straight like that. And then I'm just going to seal that down. And I will use the straight edge of my transfer sheet, of my vinyl sheet, to line up the two straight edges. Now I do this so that I can make sure when I put this on my project, my lines are lining up and I don't have to worry about getting crooked. And then you use your scraper again and just push down on it to make sure work out any bubbles. And because this is a little bit thicker vinyl, I also like to scrape the back of it to make sure there's no bubbles on there. And then I'm going to grab my notebook. So here's my fancy notebook. And we'll line this up. You can eyeball it, or since you had your ruler handy before, we know that my project is 4 inches. Remember, this is 4 by 7. So I can find the halfway point. It's going to be about 2.5. And so I want to make sure I've got it lined up on each side with enough space. So I'm just going to peel this off my vinyl, and you can throw this piece away. We'll save this piece. Okay. So I'll probably put it about that, decide about how far up I want to put it. Probably about that far up. And then you can either use your ruler and line up your design on the bottom of the ruler like this, so you have a straight edge, or you can look and see, okay, that's about 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. It's about where I want it to go. And you just put it down that way. If you want to, you can do the butterfly method of putting it down. So you hold your vinyl in your hands and you find that 2.5 mark and you put it down like that. And then you slowly roll each side down. I'm a little crooked today. I also like the eyeball method. That always works for me too. But there we go. All right. And then you just would use your scraper one more time and put it on there. And if you ever find that you're having trouble getting the transfer piece to come off or getting your vinyl to come off, what I like to do is I'll hold my whatever piece I'm trying to take away. I'll hold that in my fingers and use my scraper and put pressure on my scraper onto the vinyl surface. So I'm pushing down with my scraper and pulling back with the transfer tape. And there we go. You got this. And you can use this same type of design and image on so many different things. Like I have a phone case and I can just put an image onto that phone case using my transfer tape. But I don't need the strong grip. So I'm going to grab a little piece of the other one. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to just cut this a little smaller, and I'll show you how you can put it onto a phone case if you'd like. So this is the one I prepared. This is the negative space. And I will just peel up my transfer tape, like so. Have this ready to line up. So I know my my straight edges are the side and the bottom. So I'm going to put that there. And I'll put my transfer tape on that. The reverse way. There we go. I'll use my wedgie, my scraper, scrape like that. I pick up my transfer tape. See how that didn't come up off of it? I don't know if you guys can see that. My vinyl is still down on my vinyl backing. So you just turn it over, grab a little corner of it, hold your transfer tape down, and use the wedge to put pressure on the vinyl to come up. There we go. So that stays like that. And then you just put it on there. All right. And then that's it. And again, the same thing, like if the vinyl isn't, if your transfer tape and vinyl are sticking together, you just pull back like that. And then sometimes I'll just use my fingers and hold it down gently. And if you've got little detailed parts, you can use your weeder tool and hold it down with that.
Can you answer a couple more questions, Kesley?
Absolutely.
Can you save and reuse the transfer tape?
So I do sometimes reuse my transfer tape. If you have a dog, you might get dog hair on it and stuff. I notice I can use it like 3 or 4 times. And then it'll start to like bubble a little bit. So it doesn't go on as flat. And when I notice that happening, that's when I cut a new one. But if you wanted to reuse it, you just would take your transfer tape sheet and put this back on it. Especially if you're doing like a whole bunch of projects at once, it's super easy to keep your transfer tape and reuse it.
Okay, another question. Will you go over again what happens or what should someone do if the machine didn't cut through their vinyl all the way?
Sure.
Or through their paper or whatever, any material. Give them some tips there.
Okay, so let me do it. How am I doing on time? I don't have my...
I think we have 7 more minutes.
Okay, then I have time to show them. This might be... this is going to be a little bit small. Let me just resize my image here and I'll send that back over and I'll show you what I mean about. Okay. So my green light is flashing again, telling me it's ready to go. Oops, no, I need to pick my material, sorry. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so I've got this in here. I've got my vinyl down. Scrape it like that. And on my Cricut machine, I'm going to load it in so it's lined up on the side. Press it up against the wheels. I have my machine on a little skateboard, so I can pull it in and out. Okay, so it's lined up, and I'm going to go ahead and press that, and it'll cut. It'll make its cut. All right. So what the software does is once you've cut the image one time, it will come back and tell you to load, unload, or you can cut again.
I also want to give people the tip that if you are cutting a certain material and you notice that it just isn't cutting through every time you cut, either you may need a new blade, or on the cut screen, you can choose more or less pressure in the drop down. So you can choose more pressure if you're noticing your machine just isn't cutting through. Sometimes I do that when I'm too cheap to go change my blade. I'll change it to more pressure so that I can get a little bit more life out of my blade.
Smart. Okay. So if I take my weeding tool and I go along here and I can't like get under it because it's not cutting out, it didn't cut it. I can just come back and hit the C button. Oh, do I have to unload it? No. I just hit the C button.
Yep, hit the C button again. Don't unload it, and it will cut the same path another time.
It caught up for just 1 second there. But yes, it's going right over the same path. So when I pull it out again, I know it'll be cut through.
I know we don't have that much time left, Kesley, but will you show them transfer tape one more time? Especially like if the transfer tape isn't coming off of their backer, can you give them a couple more tips there?
Yes. So while that's cutting, I'm going to slide this out of the way. So if I use, I learned this by trial and error. This is just regular vinyl. If I use a strong grip vinyl adhesive on this, it can come off your vinyl backing really easily. So you just it comes right off your vinyl backing. But when you go to put it on something, let's see if it'll work here. When you go to put it on something, it may not peel off the vinyl, the backing very well, because it's stuck so hard to the transfer tape. So that's why you want to make sure you're using the right transfer tape. Now it is working here, but I really have to pull hard to get it off. So see how it's like coming up here? I don't know if you guys can see that. It's those little pieces are coming off here, and then you have to roll it down like that and hold it and keep peeling it off. So that's why I don't like to use the strong grip on just regular vinyl. And if you're using regular vinyl, and I mean, if you're using like a shimmer vinyl and you're using not strong grip, and this isn't really a great example because this is a nice, simple design, but if you have something more intricate, if I'm using this, sometimes it just, no matter how much pressure you put on it, sometimes it just doesn't want to come up. And you really are working on it and you're like, it's not sticking to my transfer tape. Chances are you're not using the right transfer tape that's compatible with the material. Now, in the shimmer vinyl, it does give you a piece of transfer tape to use. But again, let's try that roll back method and see if that helps take it off there. Like that.
That was amazing, Kesley. Thank you so much. Wow. I would love to see everybody's projects. Those of you who've been following along, if you could go ahead and hold up your projects so we could see, we could all click over to gallery view really quickly and see, oh, look at all these amazing projects. Fantastic. I see journals and mugs and phone cases. This is great. I love it. Great, thank you. Let's all give Kesley a finger wiggle, a Zoom round of applause for such a fantastic job. This is the first time that we are running these live workshops, and we would love your feedback. Anna Rose is going to drop a link to a survey in the chat. We're also going to email that out to you, that link. We are learning just like you, and we're always trying to get better. So we would love to get your feedback on how this has been for you and how we can improve. And now you might be wondering what's next. Kesley can tell you a little bit about that. Leah, if you could add a spotlight for Kesley, she can talk about what's next.
So we'd like everybody to keep learning. And one of the best ways to learn is sort of just to start. And don't be afraid if you make mistakes. You just have to kind of jump in there. So we've created some projects for you for all your Zoom meetings. We have these fun little Zoom icons. And when I say projects, the projects are a video and it walks you through step by step, takes you through your canvas, how to make it. So maybe you might not want to make Zoom meeting signs. Maybe you want to make signs for your garden or something like that. This will take you through doing that. If you want to learn how to make a card, we've got a walkthrough that teaches you how to make a card with, believe it or not, some of the more advanced skills like zoom, like a contour and weld on there. And then there's one for this shirt using heat transfer vinyl, a printed heat transfer vinyl. All our Cricut people are wearing their shirts. And then a infusible ink shirt. So if you haven't tried different materials, it's a great video just to walk you through not just making the project, but walking you through Design Space even more.